The marketplace was alive with the sound of chaos. Chains rattled, hooves struck against wet stone, and voices rose like a cruel symphony of greed and hunger. The air smelled of rain and iron, of something broken and human. A crimson dawn bled across the marble columns, painting everything in shades of sorrow and fire. And in the middle of it all, she ran. Her bare feet slapped against the cold ground, leaving behind faint smears of blood with every step. The hem of her bridal gown was torn, soaked in mud and rejection. The veil that once symbolized purity and promise now hung in tatters, trailing behind her like a ghost of everything she had lost. Her chest burned with every breath. Every inhale scraped her lungs, every exhale tasted like defeat. Yet she kept running, because stopping meant death, and she had already tasted too much humiliation for one lifetime. Just moments ago, she had been standing at the altar, before the eyes of the Empire, before senators, nobles, and wolves who ruled from the shadows. They had gathered to witness her union, the marriage that was supposed to seal peace between two powerful packs. But peace had turned to poison. The man she was meant to marry, the Alpha who had once sworn to protect her, had looked into her eyes, then looked away. His words still echoed through her skull, cold and final. He called her tainted blood. The murmurs that followed cut deeper than any blade. She could still feel the weight of 100 judging stares as he turned his back, leaving her stranded at the altar like a sinner at the gallows. She pulled back sharply, more from the feeling than the fear. "I don't need your pity," she spat, her voice shaking more than she wanted it to. His expression didn't change. He didn't speak. Just stepped back, letting the rain wash the blood from his blade. His silence unnerved her more than any threat could have. The thunder cracked again, closer this time, echoing through the narrow streets. Somewhere in the distance, more shouts rose, hunters regrouping. She turned her head toward the sound, her pulse quickening. She couldn't afford to stay. But when she tried to move, pain seared up her leg. She winced, stumbling, her hand shooting out to steady herself against the wall. The stranger moved instantly, catching her before she could fall. His arm wrapped around her waist, firm and steady. She could feel the strength beneath his grip, the restrained power coiled beneath his calm. The contact hit her harder than she expected. His heat seeped through the soaked fabric of her dress, grounding her, pulling her back from the edge of panic. "Let me go," she whispered, though she didn't mean it. He didn't. His hand stayed at her waist, his eyes fixed on the alley ahead, watching the storm as if reading it. Then, without warning, he lifted her effortlessly into his arms. Her breath caught. No one had touched her like this since the altar, since the moment everything fell apart. She wanted to fight him, to demand answers, but her body betrayed her. She leaned into him, just slightly, her fingers gripping the edge of his cloak as the cold air wrapped around them both. He moved through the rain with silent precision, his steps steady, his focus unwavering. The streets blurred around them, columns, shadows, the flicker of torches in the distance. Every time lightning flashed, she stole a glance at his face. Strong jaw, scar cutting across his temple, lips set in an expression that could have been carved from stone. But behind it, behind all that control, she sensed something else. Something fragile. Pain buried deep, like a wound that never healed. He carried her through the storm as if she weighed nothing, but she could feel the tension in him. The way his muscles flexed with each movement. The way his heartbeat, though calm, grew faster when her breath brushed against his collar. "Who are you?" she whispered. He didn't look at her. "Someone who shouldn't be here either." The answer made her chest tighten. He said it with the same bitterness she'd felt her whole life. The sound of someone who didn't belong anywhere. When they finally stopped, they stood beneath an old archway, half buried in ivy and stone. The marketplace was gone, replaced by silence and the faint hum of the storm's retreat. He set her down gently, his hands lingering at her sides just long enough to make her breath falter. She stepped back, staring at him through the rain. "You knew my name," she said. "How?" His eyes lifted to meet hers. For the first time, the mask cracked. There was pain there, real, raw, human. "Because I was there the day they erased it." Her stomach dropped. He took a step closer, voice low, barely audible over the rain. I watched them drag you from the altar. I saw what they did. And I did nothing. The confession hit harder than any blade could have. She wanted to hate him, to scream at him, to ask why. But his eyes, those gold, haunted eyes, held a truth she couldn't ignore. Regret. She swallowed hard, her throat tight. So now what? You save me to make yourself feel better. His jaw clenched. No. I save you because they'll keep hunting until one of us stops them. Us, she repeated. He looked at her, and something unspoken passed between them. A recognition neither wanted to admit. The air crackled, not just from the storm, but from the weight of what neither dared to say. Up close, she could see the faint scars on his hands, the small tremor that ran through them when he clenched his fists. He wasn't untouchable. He wasn't invincible. He was broken, just like her. And that terrified her more than anything. She wanted to step back, to build the walls she'd spent her life hiding behind. But something about him drew her in, the quiet strength, the loneliness that mirrored her own. The rain eased into a drizzle, soft against the stone. For the first time, she could hear the rhythm of her own breathing, matched perfectly with his. He reached out again, slow enough for her to move away if she wanted to. She didn't. His fingers brushed the edge of her cheek, wiping away the streak of mud there. It was a small gesture, almost meaningless, yet it felt like the first act of kindness she'd received in years. You shouldn't have come back, he said softly. Rome doesn't forgive its monsters. She met his gaze, steady and unflinching. Then it should have killed me when it had the chance. Something flickered in his eyes, a spark of respect, maybe admiration. Then he nodded, as if confirming something he'd already known. Stay quiet, he murmured. They're close. Before she could respond, he was already moving, drawing her deeper into the shadows. His hand found hers, warm and solid, anchoring her as he led her through the crumbling archway and into the unknown. And for the first time since the altar, since the rejection, since the world turned on her, she didn't feel alone. She didn't trust him. Not yet. But there was something about the way he moved, the way he looked at her, not as a burden, not as a curse, but as if she were someone worth saving, that made her heart ache in a way she wasn't ready to understand. The storm had broken, but the real one was just beginning. And somewhere, in the faint glow of the dying moonlight, she allowed herself to breathe again. Because for the first time, she felt seen. The amphitheater looms like a scar against the night, half buried in ash and memory. The moon hangs low, veiled in thin clouds that look like smoke from ancient battles. Selene moves carefully, every step stirring dust that smells of burnt iron and wet stone. The man beside her, her rescuer, her enigma, walks with the quiet authority of someone used to commanding armies. His presence feels both protective and dangerous, like standing near the edge of a cliff during a storm. She can still feel the sting of that morning's rejection, how the murmurs had spread like wildfire through the gathered crowd, how the word cursed had rolled off their tongues like poison. Her body trembles remembering the moment Lucian's voice, once filled with promises, had turned to ice. She carries tainted blood, he had said, not even looking at her. The world had blurred after that, faces twisting in shock, laughter from nobles echoing through the marble hall, and the heavy silence of betrayal settling in her chest. Now the silence of the ruins is different. It breathes. It listens. She glances at her rescuer. His name still eludes her, though whispers of it tug at the back of her mind. The way he moves reminds her of the alpha warriors from her Chio. Now she was no bride. She was a hunted thing. The rain came without mercy, pelting her skin until it stung. It blurred the world into streaks of gray and silver. The storm seemed to follow her, as though the heavens themselves mourned her shame. She stumbled through the narrow corridors behind the auction square, where marble turned slick and the scent of damp earth mixed with the stench of old blood. The cries of the marketplace faded into distant thunder. Only her heartbeat remained, fast, uneven, desperate. She pressed her hand against her abdomen, gasping. There, beneath her trembling fingers, 2 faint pulses answered her. 2 heartbeats. Not one. She closed her eyes for a second, swallowing a sob that threatened to tear her apart. That was her secret, the secret no one could ever know. She carried the children of the very man who rejected her. The children of an alpha. His bloodline flowed in them, burning inside her like a forbidden flame. If anyone discovered it, she wouldn't just be disgraced. She would be executed. Another sound split the night, a howl, deep and distant, rolling over the rooftops like thunder with teeth. They were coming for her. She darted behind the broken statues of forgotten gods, pressing herself into the shadow of a cracked stone wolf. Her entire body shook. The rain plastered her hair to her face, strands sticking to her lips as she tried to quiet her breathing. Every sound became louder, the rush of blood in her ears, the drip of water from the statue's jaw, the shuffle of boots in the distance. She tried to pray, but no words came. The gods she had once trusted had turned their backs long ago. Maybe they had never listened at all. Her mind was a storm of memory and pain. She saw the faces of her pack, those who had called her cursed, the women who whispered about her lineage, the elders who demanded she be controlled. Even as a child, she had known she was different. Her temper was dangerous, her emotions unpredictable. And once, when she was cornered and frightened, the air around her had shimmered and burned. Silver fire. The mark of the silver flame, the bloodline cursed to destroy what it touched. She had spent her entire life hiding it, containing it, pretending to be ordinary. But they always knew. People could sense danger even when it smiled. Now, soaked and shivering behind stone relics, she realized the truth she'd been running from all along. Ordinary women were not hunted by wolves. Ordinary brides were not left bleeding in the streets. Whatever she was, it was not ordinary. Lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the alley in a blinding flash. For one heartbeat, she saw them, 3 figures at the end of the passage, cloaked, their eyes glinting with hunger and triumph. Hunters. She bit down on her lip to keep from crying out. Her hands balled into fists, nails digging into her palms until she felt blood. She tried to move, but her body ached. The cold had set deep into her bones, each breath coming out as a trembling puff of air. She could hear them now, their voices low, cruel, confident. They knew she was close. She could smell their wet fur, hear the scrape of their claws on stone. For a moment, despair clawed at her. She thought of the altar again, the silence that had followed her rejection, the way the crowd parted as though her shame was contagious. No one had spoken to her. No one had defended her. Even the man she loved couldn't meet her eyes. And yet, inside her, their children lived. His children. Her secret. Her curse. Tears burned her cheeks, mingling with rain. She wanted to scream. To rage. To make them all feel what she felt. But she stayed still, trapped between terror and exhaustion. Her body trembled from pain and fear, but her spirit, it refused to die quietly. The sky growled, a long roll of thunder stretching over the city. She could almost feel the air vibrating against her skin. The storm wasn't natural. It moved with her heartbeat, growing stronger each time her fear spiked. The marble beneath her palms began to hum faintly, and when she looked down, she saw a faint shimmer, silver light tracing along the cracks in the stone. Her breath hitched. No, not now. Not again. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing the energy back down, the way she had done for years. If they saw that light, if they realized what she was, they would not stop until she was ashes. The footsteps drew closer. Her heartbeat raced faster. The silver light pulsed again, begging for release. Her jaw clenched as she fought to contain it, her body trembling with the effort. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she couldn't. Not yet. A memory flashed in her mind, her mother's voice, soft and shaking. If the world ever turns on you, don't beg for mercy, Selene. Remember who you are. The fire in your veins was never meant to be tamed. And suddenly, something inside her broke free. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark. The light wasn't something she could hide anymore. It was alive, like it had been waiting for this very moment. The nearest hunter stepped into the clearing. His gaze met hers, and for a heartbeat, his confidence faltered. He saw something he didn't understand, something divine and terrifying staring back at him. Then she spoke. Her voice was raw, cracked, but steady. "I will not die here." The words carried more power than a scream. They hung in the air, vibrating with defiance. The storm outside seemed to pause for a heartbeat, then roared louder, as though the heavens themselves answered her declaration. A shadow moved behind her, darker than the night. Massive. Silent. The unmistakable outline of a wolf, taller than any man, for like midnight, eyes glinting gold. She didn't turn. She didn't have to. She felt its presence, ancient and wild, a reflection of everything she was running from. The hunters froze. One of them took a hesitant step back. But it was already too late. The beast growled, low and dangerous, the sound vibrating through the rain-soaked air. The marketplace had fallen silent now, the storm holding its breath. Somewhere deep within her, something shifted. Fear and fire tangled together until they became something else entirely resolve. Her fingers uncurled from the stone. She stepped forward, the rain washing the blood from her hands. The light in her eyes dimmed to a soft glow, controlled but waiting. She knew she couldn't win tonight. But she also knew she wouldn't die begging. Not like they expected. Her entire body hurt. Her heart ached. But she stood tall, back straight, face lifted toward the storm. The wolf's shadow lingered behind her, a silent guardian or perhaps a warning. She didn't know. She only knew that this moment, this heartbeat between despair and defiance, was hers. The wind howled. The rain fell harder. Somewhere in the distance, bells rang, the signal that the hunt was still on. But she didn't move. She let the world watch her bleed. Let them see the girl they had broken still standing. And in that moment, under the gaze of gods and monsters, a truth took root inside her heart. She might be hunted. She might be broken. She might even be cursed. But she was not finished. And as thunder rolled above the city of wolves, her story truly began. If your heart beats for forbidden love, betrayal, and second chances, then stay right here. Because this story is only beginning. Subscribe to Sophie's Romance Collections. This is where fire meets fate. Thunder rolled like the growl of an angry god, shaking the broken pillars around her. The air itself seemed to pulse with tension, thick, heavy, alive. The hunters moved in, their shadows slicing through the rain. Their blades glimmered in flashes of lightning, cruel and certain. She braced herself for the end, pressing her back against the cold marble, too exhausted to run, too proud to beg. And then the world went silent. For a heartbeat, even the storm seemed to hold its breath. The scent hit first, iron, smoke, and something wilder, sharper, like the air before lightning strikes. A figure emerged from the edge of the shadows, tall and impossibly still. The hood of his cloak dripped rain, the leather armor beneath molded to muscle and motion. Across his chest burned a sigil, a golden wolf, alive even in the dim light, flickering as if with a pulse of its own. The hunters froze. One muttered a name she couldn't catch, his voice trembling. The leader growled something back, but even he stepped back half a pace. They knew who he was. Whoever he was. The newcomer didn't speak. He didn't need to. Power rolled off him like heat from a forge, controlled, dangerous, absolute. Then his eyes found her. There was no hesitation, no curiosity, only recognition. Like he had been searching for her and finally found what he'd lost. The moment his gaze locked on hers, the world shrank. The rain, the ruins, the sound of her own heartbeat, all of it faded until there was only that look. When he spoke, his voice was low, dark and steady. Selene. Her stomach clenched. The name cut through her like a blade. No one should know it. Not anymore. It had been erased, buried, forbidden. Hearing it spoken aloud felt like being dragged back into a life she'd been forced to abandon. She wanted to deny it, to tell him he was mistaken. But she couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The hunters snapped out of their hesitation first. One lunged forward, raising his blade. The stranger moved faster than her eyes could follow. In one fluid motion, he unsheathed his sword, a gleaming curve of silver, and the air hissed. The first man dropped before he even screamed, his body crumpling into the mud. The second tried to run, but a flick of the stranger's wrist sent a blade whirling through the rain, striking clean through his throat. The third stood frozen, too afraid to move. The stranger turned his head slightly, and that was enough. The man bolted, disappearing into the night. It was over in seconds. Selene stared at him, chest heaving, heart pounding so violently it hurt. She didn't know whether to thank him or fear him. The stranger's gaze lingered on her, unreadable. Beneath the hood, his face was shadowed, but she caught the faint glint of golden eyes, wolf eyes. Ancient. Patient. Haunted. He stepped closer, and every instinct screamed to move, but her body refused. He didn't smell like the others. His scent was older, wilder, cedar bark, storm-soaked soil, and blood. It reached into her chest and pulled at something deep, something she didn't want to feel. When he spoke again, his voice carried the kind of quiet that commanded. "You shouldn't be here." The words struck her as strange. Of course, she shouldn't be here. She shouldn't even be alive. But his tone wasn't cruel, it was weary. As if he'd seen this before. As if he knew exactly how it would end. Her voice was hoarse, brittle. "Why are you helping me?" He didn't answer. Instead, his eyes fell to the side of her neck, where the faint glow of her hidden mark pulsed just beneath the skin. The mark of the silver flame. The curse she could never escape. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, and for the briefest moment, something like fear or respect darkened his expression. He reached out slowly, fingers brushing away the strand of wet hair that clung to her skin. His touch was light, careful, but it sent a rush of heat through her veins. She pulled back sharply, more from the feeling than the fear. "I don't need your pity," she spat, her voice shaking more than she wanted it to. His expression didn't change. He didn't speak. Just stepped back, letting the rain wash the blood from his blade. His silence unnerved her more than any threat could have. The thunder cracked again, closer this time, echoing through the narrow streets. Somewhere in the distance, more shouts rose, hunters regrouping. She turned her head toward the sound, her pulse quickening. She couldn't afford to stay. But when she tried to move, pain seared up her leg. She winced, stumbling, her hand shooting out to steady herself against the wall. The stranger moved instantly, catching her before she could fall. His arm wrapped around her waist, firm and steady. She could feel the strength beneath his grip, the restrained power coiled beneath his calm. The contact hit her harder than she expected. His heat seeped through the soaked fabric of her dress, grounding her, pulling her back from the edge of panic. "Let me go," she whispered, though she didn't mean it. He didn't. His hand stayed at her waist, his eyes fixed on the alley ahead, watching the storm as if reading it. Then, without warning, he lifted her effortlessly into his arms. Her breath caught. No one had touched her like this since the altar, since the moment everything fell apart. She wanted to fight him, to demand answers, but her body betrayed her. She leaned into him, just slightly, her fingers gripping the edge of his cloak as the cold air wrapped around them both. He moved through the rain with silent precision, his steps steady, his focus unwavering. The streets blurred around them, columns, shadows, the flicker of torches in the distance. Every time lightning flashed, she stole a glance at his face. Strong jaw, scar cutting across his temple, lips set in an expression that could have been carved from stone. But behind it, behind all that control, she sensed something else. Something fragile. Pain buried deep, like a wound that never healed. He carried her through the storm as if she weighed nothing, but she could feel the tension in him. The way his muscles flexed with each movement. The way his heartbeat, though calm, grew faster when her breath brushed against his collar. "Who are you?" she whispered. He didn't look at her. "Someone who shouldn't be here either." The answer made her chest tighten. He said it with the same bitterness she'd felt her whole life. The sound of someone who didn't belong anywhere. When they finally stopped, they stood beneath an old archway, half buried in ivy and stone. The marketplace was gone, replaced by silence and the faint hum of the storm's retreat. He set her down gently, his hands lingering at her sides just long enough to make her breath falter. She stepped back, staring at him through the rain. "You knew my name," she said. "How?" His eyes lifted to meet hers. For the first time, the mask cracked. There was pain there, real, raw, human. "Because I was there the day they erased it." Her stomach dropped. He took a step closer, voice low, barely audible over the rain. "I watched them drag you from the altar. I saw what they did. And I did nothing." The confession hit harder than any blade could have. She wanted to hate him, to scream at him, to ask why. But his eyes, those gold, haunted eyes, held a truth she couldn't ignore. Regret. She swallowed hard, her throat tight. "So now what? You save me to make yourself feel better." His jaw clenched. "No. I save you because they'll keep hunting until one of us stops them." "Us," she repeated. He looked at her, and something unspoken passed between them. A recognition neither wanted to admit. The air crackled, not just from the storm, but from the weight of what neither dared to say. Up close, she could see the faint scars on his hands, the small tremor that ran through them when he clenched his fists. He wasn't untouchable. He wasn't invincible. He was broken, just like her. And that terrified her more than anything. She wanted to step back, to build the walls she'd spent her life hiding behind. But something about him drew her in, the quiet strength, the loneliness that mirrored her own. The rain eased into a drizzle, soft against the stone. For the first time, she could hear the rhythm of her own breathing, matched perfectly with his. He reached out again, slow enough for her to move away if she wanted to. She didn't. His fingers brushed the edge of her cheek, wiping away the streak of mud there. It was a small gesture, almost meaningless, yet it felt like the first act of kindness she'd received in years. "You shouldn't have come back," he said softly. "Rome doesn't forgive its monsters." She met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Then it should have killed me when it had the chance." Something flickered in his eyes, a spark of respect, maybe admiration. Then he nodded, as if confirming something he'd already known. "Stay quiet," he murmured. "They're close." Before she could respond, he was already moving, drawing her deeper into the shadows. His hand found hers, warm and solid, anchoring her as he led her through the crumbling archway and into the unknown. And for the first time since the altar, since the rejection, since the world turned on her, she didn't feel alone. She didn't trust him. Not yet. But there was something about the way he moved, the way he looked at her, not as a burden, not as a curse, but as if she were someone worth saving, that made her heart ache in a way she wasn't ready to understand. The storm had broken, but the real one was just beginning. And somewhere, in the faint glow of the dying moonlight, she allowed herself to breathe again. Because for the first time, she felt seen. The amphitheater looms like a scar against the night, half buried in ash and memory. The moon hangs low, veiled in thin clouds that look like smoke from ancient battles. Selene moves carefully, every step stirring dust that smells of burnt iron and wet stone. The man beside her, her rescuer, her enigma, walks with the quiet authority of someone used to commanding armies. His presence feels both protective and dangerous, like standing near the edge of a cliff during a storm. She can still feel the sting of that morning's rejection, how the murmurs had spread like wildfire through the gathered crowd, how the word cursed had rolled off their tongues like poison. Her body trembles, remembering the moment Lucian's voice, once filled with promises, had turned to ice. "She carries tainted blood," he had said, not even looking at her. The world had blurred after that, faces twisting in shock, laughter from nobles echoing through the marble hall, and the heavy silence of betrayal settling in her chest. Now the silence of the ruins is different. It breathes. It listens. She glances at her rescuer. His name still eludes her, though whispers of it tug at the back of her mind. The way he moves reminds her of the alpha warriors from her childhood stories, the ones who once served under the gods before rebellion tore the packs apart. He kneels by a broken pillar, running a thumb over carved wolf sigils, half erased by centuries of neglect. The golden light from the small fire between them paints his face in flickering shadows, revealing faint scars across his jaw. She wonders how many lives he's taken. He looks up, and for a moment, their eyes meet. There's something there, recognition, maybe. Or guilt. "You should rest," he says quietly, his voice low and rough, like gravel dragged through flame. She wants to ask why he's helping her. Why her? But the words die before reaching her lips. She's too used to silence, too used to the way it shields her from pity. She lowers herself to the cold ground, back against the ancient stone, and stares into the fire. The crackle of wood stirs memories she's tried to bury. Her father's voice. Strong, defiant, echoing through the council hall. "My daughter bears no curse. She bears a gift the gods fear." She remembers how they had dragged him away, iron shackles biting into his wrists. The last thing she saw was his eyes, proud even as they condemned him. Then the execution horn had sounded. She never saw him again. Her mother had died soon after, whispering to her to hide the mark, to never let anyone see the shimmer beneath her skin. But on the day of her binding ceremony, as the priests invoked the wolves of Rome and the bond between bloodlines, the mark had burned. The silver light had erupted across her neck like fire. Gasps had filled the air. The bond shattered before it could be sealed. And the man she loved, the alpha she had trusted, stepped back as though she were a plague. That was the moment everything ended. Now, sitting by this fire, she feels the same burning deep inside. Only this time, it's not shame. It's the pulse of something awakening. Something she no longer wants to bury. The man, her savior, sharpens his blade, but she can feel his attention flicker toward her. She senses he's watching her reflection in the steel. His energy hums in the air, heavy and restless. "You've seen battle," she says softly. He pauses, the blade glinting in the firelight. "Too many." His tone carries weight, a history of loss. She doesn't press. Some wounds shouldn't be touched. Instead, she focuses on her own. The ache in her abdomen grows sharper, more insistent. 2 heartbeats. 2 fragile lives. Her hands tremble as she presses them against her cloak. Her secret. The one she carries through storm and ruin. She looks up at the moon, its reflection caught in her eyes. "They called me cursed," she murmurs, more to herself than him. But what if they were right? He stops sharpening the blade. "You don't sound cursed." "Then what do I sound like?" He studies her in silence, the firelight dancing between them. "Like someone who's survived what should have destroyed her." The words settle in her chest, unexpected and heavy. For the first time since the altar, she doesn't feel invisible. A breeze moves through the amphitheater, carrying the faint howls of distant wolves. The scent of rain lingers in the air, mingling with the salt of her tears she refuses to shed. She can almost hear the echoes of old ceremonies, chants, drums, the snapping of bones as shifters changed beneath the eyes of gods. This place once belonged to her kind. Now it's a tomb. She feels something stir in her blood, an ember that flickers when she thinks of home, of betrayal, of the children growing within her. They're her last link to everything she's lost. The last proof that love existed, even in ruin. She turns toward him again. "You knew my name," she says quietly. "How?" He meets her gaze, unflinching. "Because your story was never meant to end at that altar." His answer sends a chill through her. "Then what was it meant to be?" He doesn't reply. Instead, he leans closer, his eyes reflecting the silver glimmer of her mark. "You're not the only one the gods have cursed," he says, and in that single sentence, she hears layers of pain that mirror her own. The fire crackles louder as though responding to their confessions. Shadows stretch long across the ruins, wrapping around them like the ghosts of the past. She studies him now, the faint glow in his irises, the rhythm of his pulse she can almost hear. There's power there, raw and ancient. But beneath it lies something else, sorrow. He wears it like armor. "What are you running from?" she asks. He exhales slowly. "The same thing you are. The past." The simplicity of his answer cuts deeper than she expects. For the first time in years, she feels less alone. But comfort is a dangerous thing. Because comfort makes her forget the hunters, the council, the vow of death placed on her name. Comfort makes her want to stay. She forces herself to look away, watching the embers fade into ash. "They'll come for me," she whispers. "They always do. Then they'll have to go through me first." His voice carries no arrogance, just certainty. And that scares her more than anything. The silence between them stretches, filled with unspoken truths. She feels the pull, an invisible thread drawing her closer, tightening with every heartbeat. She can sense the wolf in him, the restrained power beneath his calm. It calls to something wild inside her. She wants to resist it, but the bond forming is undeniable. When the wind shifts, bringing the scent of approaching rain, she feels her body tremble. The night is colder now, sharper. She draws her cloak tighter, but it does nothing to stop the chill seeping from within. Her eyes drift toward the horizon, where dark clouds gather over the distant mountains. Lightning flickers, echoing the storm inside her chest. "Do you ever wish you could start over?" she asks softly. He stares into the fire, expression unreadable. "No one starts over. We just pretend the scars don't hurt anymore." The honesty of it breaks something open in her. She nods slowly, her throat tight. "Then I'm tired of pretending." For a moment, neither of them speaks. The rain begins again, soft at first, then steady, hissing against the stone. The fire sputters, shrinking to glowing coals. She lifts her face to the sky, letting the cold drops wash away the grime and blood. In that fragile quiet, something shifts. Her mark glows faintly beneath her skin, responding to the storm. The man watches, awe flickering in his eyes, though he says nothing. She closes her eyes, feeling the twin heartbeats stronger than before. She doesn't know what waits ahead, only that everything she's ever known is gone. But for the first time, she allows herself to imagine that maybe this isn't just running. Maybe it's beginning again. And somewhere in the distance, a howl rises long, mournful, and ancient. The sound vibrates through the ruins, through her bones. It's a reminder that the world hasn't forgotten her. That fate still hunts her. She opens her eyes and looks at the man beside her. His jaw tightens as he listens to the howl, his hand gripping the hilt of his blade. "They've found us," he murmurs. Her pulse quickens, but her fear feels different now, sharper, steadier. She rises, her cloak dripping rain, silver eyes gleaming beneath the storm. For the first time in her life, she's ready to stop running. And though she doesn't say it aloud, one truth burns bright in her heart. The cursed girl the world tried to erase is done hiding. The air grows colder as they descend into the underbelly of the Colosseum. Each step echoes like a ghost's heartbeat, hollow and ancient. The torches Cashin carries sputter against the damp air, their light flickering across carvings that stretch endlessly into the darkness. The catacombs beneath Rome are older than the empire itself, built when wolves still ruled beside men, when the bond between shifter and god had not yet broken. Selene trails behind him, her fingers grazing the walls. The stone hums beneath her skin. Symbols shimmer faintly where her touch lingers, spirals, moons, wolves with eyes of flame. They come alive in her presence, like they've been waiting for her all along. Cashin's voice cuts through the silence. "These tunnels were once prisons," he says, his tone low, burdened by memory. "When the Empire feared the power of our kind, they caged the alphas who would not kneel." She can hear it, the faint whisper of chains, the scrape of claws against stone. The air carries echoes of growls and agony, of the ancient fights staged above, where her ancestors were forced to slaughter each other for the amusement of men. Her hand stops on a single line of inscription, words etched deep into the wall, still pulsing with a silver glow. She traces them, whispering under her breath. "One marked by flame shall bear the heirs of balance." Cashin turns sharply, his gaze locking onto hers. The torchlight paints gold in his irises. "Where did you learn to read the old tongue?" "I didn't," she murmurs. "It's as if it's reading itself to me." The silence stretches. He looks away, his jaw tightening. "Then it's true," he says finally. "You are her." She freezes. "Her who?" He lifts the torch higher, illuminating a mural carved across the ceiling. Two wolves, one silver and one shadow black, circle a figure cloaked in fire. Beneath her feet, Rome burns. Above her, two moons rise, one red as blood, one pale as bone. Cashin's voice drops to a whisper. The child of flame. The one who carries the blood of both light and ruin. The prophecy says she will end the curse, or begin the war. The words hang heavy between them, like the weight of fate itself. Selene steps back, shaking her head. No, that's not me. I'm just... Her voice falters as pain flares through her abdomen. The pulse inside her, those two tiny, powerful heartbeats, thrums faster, stronger. The air thickens, the symbols on the walls blazing brighter. Her mark glows through her cloak, a burning silver halo at her throat. Cashin reaches for her, steadying her as her knees buckle. Breathe, he murmurs, voice gentler now. It's the power waking. You're connected to this place. The energy around them shifts, becoming almost alive. The walls ripple faintly with light. She can hear faint whispers now, ancient voices layered like wind through stone. They murmur her name, not in fear, but in reverence. Selene of the Flame, they whisper. The one who carries balance in her womb. Tears sting her eyes. I didn't ask for this, she says, her voice cracking. I never wanted to be anyone's prophecy. Cashin's hand lingers on her arm, his touch grounding. Neither did I, he admits. But fate doesn't ask. For a long moment, she studies him, seeing something different beneath his stoic expression, a shadow of guilt. You knew, she says slowly. You knew who I was before you found me. His silence confirms it. I was part of the council that condemned you, he says finally. The words fall heavy sharp. I didn't speak against them. I watched them strip you of your name. I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting the Pax from a curse I didn't understand. Her breath catches. Betrayal twists inside her chest, colder than the catacomb air. Then why save me now? He looks at her, and the truth in his eyes is raw. Because when I saw you fall to your knees that day, I saw something the others didn't. The fire didn't consume you. It bowed. Her chest tightens. The part of her that wants to hate him falters under the weight of his confession. He isn't her enemy, not completely. He's haunted too, bound by the same fate that marked her life. Thunder rumbles above, faint but growing. The storm hasn't left Rome, it's following them. Cashin steps closer, close enough that she can feel his heat through the damp air. There's more, he says quietly. The prophecy spoke of twins, two heirs who would carry both strength and mercy. You carry them, don't you? Her heart stops. How do you know? His eyes soften, regret lacing his words. Because the mark responds to their blood. It only awakens when the balance stirs within the mother. Selene feels exposed, every secret she's guarded laid bare before him. The truth burns through the last of her defenses. Then they'll come for me, she whispers. The council. The empire. Everyone. Yes, he says. But that's not all. He steps closer, lowering his voice. There's another prophecy, one that was hidden. It says that the father of the heirs will either rise beside her or destroy her. Her pulse spikes. The words cut deeper than any blade. The father, she breathes. Lucian. Cashin's gaze hardens. He's changed since the council's decree. He believes killing you will end the curse before it consumes Rome. The ground seems to tilt beneath her. The man who humiliated her, who left her broken before the altar, is now her greatest threat. She takes a step back, her mind spinning. The catacombs feel smaller, the air thickening with dread. Then why bring me here, she demands. Cashin meets her gaze steadily. Because the prophecy doesn't belong to him. It belongs to you. And if you're going to survive what's coming, you need to claim it. Before she can respond, the flames flicker violently, as if a sudden wind has swept through the tunnels. A strange light fills the corridor, a silver luminescence, brighter than any torch. Selene's mark blazes again. Her vision blurs, and suddenly she's not in the catacombs anymore. She's standing in an open field of ash. The sky burns red. Wolves circle her, some with eyes of gold, others with eyes black as midnight. Above them, twin moons hang, their light merging into one. And there, standing at the edge of the field, is a figure cloaked in shadow. His voice cuts through the air, deep and unyielding. She will end the curse, or begin the war. The world tilts, and she falls to her knees. Flames lick at her hands, but they don't burn. They move with her, like part of her soul. The fire bends when she breathes. It obeys. Then a cry, two cries, small and clear, echo across the burning field. She turns toward the sound, but the vision fractures, scattering like shards of glass. Cashin's hands grip her shoulders as she gasps awake. The catacombs return, heavy and real. Sweat beads her forehead. Her heart pounds as though she's run 1,000 miles. "What did you see?" he asks urgently. She swallows hard, still trembling. "Fire. Wolves. 2 moons." And a voice that said, "I'll end the curse or start the war." Cashin nods slowly, his expression grave. "Then the gods have chosen. The balance has begun." She closes her eyes, exhaustion pressing down on her. The energy that once frightened her now feels alive inside her, humming beneath her skin like a second pulse. For the first time, she can sense the power her mother had tried to hide, the legacy her father died to protect. Cashin crouches beside her, his tone quieter now, gentler. "You were never cursed, Selene. You were chosen. And that means the Empire will stop at nothing to break you." Her voice steadies as she looks up at him. "Then let them try." The torch burns low, its flame flickering against the carvings that now glow brighter than ever. The prophecy carved in stone seems to shift, the letters reshaping before their eyes. The words transform into something new, something meant only for her. One flame to unite the wolves. One mother to bring balance. The walls tremble as thunder roars overhead. Dust falls from the ceiling and Cashin's eyes dart upward. "We need to move," he says. "They're already searching the tunnels." But Selene doesn't rise. Her hand remains on the carvings, feeling the energy pulse beneath her palm. The voices whisper again, louder now. "Do not run from what you are. The fire was never meant to burn you. It was meant to light your way." She exhales slowly, the fear fading into something steadier. "Then I'll light it," she whispers. Cashin helps her to her feet. As they move deeper into the catacombs, the faint glow of her mark lights the path before them. For the first time, she isn't afraid of her own reflection in the dark. And though neither of them says it aloud, both know the truth: this is no longer about survival. This is destiny unfolding, one heartbeat at a time. The storm swallows them whole. Wind rips through the hollow streets of the ancient city, and lightning turns every broken column into a blade of light. Cashin runs, her limp form in his arms, the rain washing her blood down his wrists. The scent of it, bright, metallic, burning with silver energy, stings his throat like poison and prayer. He doesn't stop until the world falls silent again. Beneath a crumbled archway, he lowers her gently to the ground. Her skin flickers with silver veins that pulse in rhythm with the storm. It's both beautiful and terrifying, like watching divinity bleed. He presses a hand to her wound. The flame hisses beneath his palm, not burning him, but recognizing something buried deep within his blood. Her body arches, breath ragged, as his aura mingles with hers. The connection slices through the air, raw and electric. "Stay with me," he murmurs, voice shaking with a command he doesn't understand. "You can't die now, not when I've just found you again." Her lashes flutter. "You should have let me burn." "Not this time." He tears a strip of cloth from his cloak, wrapping her shoulder, but the silver flame refuses to be bound. It seeps through the fabric, soft at first, then wild, alive, sentient. It dances up his arm, coiling like a serpent, tasting his resolve. Cashin doesn't flinch. He meets it head-on. "If you're her curse," he whispers, "then curse me too." The flame hesitates. Then it stills, as if listening. In that moment, he feels the weight of her heartbeat, 2 distinct rhythms, fragile yet powerful. One his own, one hers. The bond forms, invisible but unbreakable. When her eyes open fully, they're no longer the soft gray of the woman he saved. They're molten silver, alive with ancient knowledge. "You shouldn't have done that," she breathes. "You've tied yourself to me." I know, he answers. And I'd do it again. The rain slows. Steam rises from the ground where her blood has fallen, forming ghostly symbols, ancient runes that twist and shimmer in the night. She recognizes them instantly. They'll come for us, she says, voice low. Lucian won't stop until he buries what he fears. Cashin looks at her, jaw tight. Then he'll find nothing left to bury. They move before dawn, slipping through the shattered remains of the forum. Every step echoes the truth neither of them dares to speak. They are bound now by prophecy and blood. As they descend into the lower ruins, her memory flickers again, visions of her children hidden in the mountains, guarded by shadows that whisper her name. Guilt coils inside her chest. She left them to survive, knowing the world would call them monsters before it called them heirs. Cashin catches her silence. You're thinking of them. She doesn't ask how he knows. They're all that's left of what I was. And what are you now? Her eyes find his. A weapon. He stops walking. No. You're the balance. The fire that burns only because the world forced you to. She wants to argue, but his conviction shakes her. No one has ever spoken of her as anything but danger. His words press against the part of her that still believes she can be more than destruction. They find shelter in a collapsed chamber beneath the old Senate. The walls are lined with forgotten inscriptions, prayers to the moon goddess Lycia, mother of all shifters. The light of the fading storm filters through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating them in silver and gold. Cashin kneels, tracing a carving of the goddess's face. I thought these were myths. They were, Selene replies, lowering herself beside him. Until the gods started using us to finish their unfinished wars. He looks at her. And you think this prophecy is just another weapon in their hands? It always is. The gods make promises they never pay for. Mortals bleed to balance their ledgers. Her tone hardens, but beneath it, there's something raw fear dressed as anger. Cashin sees it. He's seen it in his own reflection too many times. Maybe, he says quietly. But what if this prophecy isn't about war? What if it's about redemption? She almost laughs. Redemption doesn't come from bloodlines. It comes from loss. He studies her face in the dim light, the defiance, the fatigue, the pain. Then let me lose with you. The air tightens. His words hit her like a tremor she can't control. She turns away, but he's already too close. His scent, storm, cedar, and something darker, pulls her in. Her pulse betrays her, syncing with his. He brushes his thumb against her jaw, careful, reverent. You feel it too. She whispers, that's what scares me. The silence that follows isn't empty, it hums. The bond between them burns like a silent vow neither intended to make. Outside, the wind shifts. The scent of approaching soldiers cuts through the air. Cashin's head snaps up. They've found us. Selene rises instantly, her wounds forgotten. Lucian doesn't send scouts. He sends executioners. Then we stop them before they reach the catacombs. They move as one, instinctive, wordless. She channels the silver fire through her palms, her aura flaring like a blade forged in light. Cashin draws his twin daggers, the runes along their edges igniting to match her glow. When the first wave of enemies enters the chamber, the battle begins in silence. No roars. No warnings. Only the rush of bodies, the shatter of steel, and the thrum of power older than language. Selene's movements are not of rage, they're of purpose. Every strike, she makes sears through armor and bone, cleansing as much as it kills. Cashin fights beside her, his rhythm perfectly matched to hers, every motion a dance of violence and devotion. But when Lucian appears at the threshold, the world slows. He's barehanded, eyes cold as winter stone. His gaze locks on Selene, then drifts to Cashin. So, this is how low you've fallen, guarding the creature you swore to destroy. Cashin steps forward, blades ready. You never understood her power. You feared it. Lucian smirks. No, Cashin. I feared what she'd make you become. Selene's flame rises between them, silver against gold. You call me creature, she says, but it's your kind that hunts the light. Lucian's joy tightens. You think that power is divine? It's corruption. Look at what you've become, half flame, half sin. Her voice steadies. Then I'll burn in truth before I bow in shame. Lucian lunges, shifting mid-strike, golden fur exploding across his skin, claws gleaming under the fractured moonlight. Cassian meets him halfway, steel flashing. The impact shakes the chamber. Selene's heart hammers. Every clash between them is history rewritten, love betrayed, brotherhood broken, destiny torn apart. Lucian knocks Cassian to the ground, snarling. You were my brother. Cassian spits blood. And you were blind. Selene's fire ignites again, this time not from pain, but from fury. It floods the chamber, swallowing the gold and turning the air molten. Lucian staggers, shielding his eyes. Cassian rises, pressing his blade to Lucian's throat, but Selene stops him. Not yet. Lucian glares. You think mercy makes you pure? No, she says. It makes me dangerous. She releases him. The flame fades. Lucian falls to his knees, gasping as if the weight of what she spared him burns more than her fire ever could. Cassian turns to her, chest heaving. You could have ended him. She meets his gaze. And become what he said I was? For a moment, the only sound is rain dripping through the cracks above. Then Cassian nods. He understands. She's not here to win the world's war, she's here to change its meaning. They leave the temple before dawn, the ruins smoldering behind them. The prophecy hums louder now, alive in her veins. Balance. That's what the gods demanded. But she's beginning to think balance won't come through surrender or peace, only through the fire she carries. Cassian falls into stride beside her. Where do we go next? She looks toward the horizon, where the twin moons fade into morning. To the mountains. To find the ones I left behind. He nods. Your children. Her throat tightens. Our future. The wind stirs her hair, carrying the scent of ash and promise. For the first time since her exile, she doesn't feel cursed. She feels chosen. And somewhere, deep within the ruins they've left behind, the gods watch in silence, unmoving, unseen, but restless. Because the flame they tried to control no longer obeys them. It walks the earth in the body of a woman who once wept for mercy and now walks toward war. The howl stretches across the cliffs like a blade drawn slow, long, low, and full of omen. It rolls through the night, caught in the tide and carried by the salt wind. Cassian stills, hand hovering just above her cheek. Selene feels the heat of him, the closeness that both steadies and unravels her. For a heartbeat, the world holds still. The waves break against the rocks, the moonlight drapes the cave in silver light, and their breathing fills the silence. Then Cassian pulls away, not sharply, but as though something inside him fears the consequence of staying close. You shouldn't have followed me, she murmurs, voice frayed with exhaustion. He looks at her as though she said something absurd. You were dying. I've been dying for years, she says, attempting a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. You just interrupted the rhythm. He kneels before her, wiping the last trace of blood from her shoulder, and the gentleness of it undoes her more than pain ever could. There's restraint in every motion, a quiet war beneath his skin. His hands are steady, but his pulse betrays him. She can feel it, even from inches away. You should rest, he says. You should stop pretending you don't care. His jaw tightens. Care is dangerous. So is silence. She sits up, ignoring the ache in her body. You told me what you did to your brother. What you left out is why. He doesn't answer immediately. The tide crashes outside, filling the gap between them with sound and memory. Then his gaze drops to his hands. Because I wanted power more than peace. I thought if I took the curse inside me and mastered it, I could save everyone who feared it. But I failed. The curse didn't want control. It wanted blood. And now, she asks softly, now it wants you. The words hang there, heavy, alive. She should recoil. She should run. But she can't. His voice carries no threat, only surrender. Selene leans closer. You think I can't handle darkness, Cassian? I was born from it. That's what terrifies me. Their eyes lock again, and something breaks in the air between them. Not tension, truth. The kind that doesn't beg to be spoken but demands to be felt. He exhales, steadying himself. If I lose control again, then I'll burn you before you touch me, she interrupts. He looks up sharply, startled by the calm in her tone. She continues, voice steady. Not out of hatred. Out of mercy. For both of us. Cashin's chest rises slowly, as though he's relearning how to breathe. Then promise me something, he says finally. If it comes to that, don't hesitate. I won't, she whispers. But her eyes betray her. They soften, unwilling, already disobeying her words. The fire in the small pit flickers, shadows shifting along the stone walls. It paints them in light and darkness, both two halves of a prophecy still uncertain of which side they belong to. He breaks the silence again, voice low. You said the twins are destiny's proof. Tell me what that means. Selene's hands tremble slightly. She's hidden this truth longer than she's been alive in spirit. When I was cast out, the oracle whispered something before they dragged me away. She said the silver flame would choose a womb, and from it, 2 heirs would rise, one of light, one of shadow. Together, they'd decide the world's end or rebirth. Cashin listens without flinching, but his gaze hardens with understanding. Lucian knows. He suspected, she says. That's why he wanted me dead before they were born. The council feared balance as much as they feared chaos. He stands, pacing once, twice, as the realization sets in. You're carrying the future of every shifter alive, and you're hiding in a cave. Her voice cuts through the air. You think I wanted this? I think destiny doesn't ask permission, he says, quieter now. It demands sacrifice. Selene looks up at him, her expression unreadable. Then what's yours? His eyes darken, the silver glow beneath his skin dimming like an eclipse. You. It's not a confession. It's an inevitability. She feels it in her chest, a pull that isn't love yet but could be something even more dangerous. When he turns away, she catches a glimpse of the mark etched into the back of his neck, a scar shaped like a crescent moon, glowing faintly under the torchlight. You bear the mark of the same gods who cursed me, she says. Cashin nods once. Because I begged them to spare you. Her breath catches. You knew me before the council. He nods again, slower this time. I was the one who found you by the river after your father's death. You were only a girl, barely breathing. You looked at me and said, if you see the gods, tell them I'm not afraid. I never forgot. Her heart clenches. The fragments of her past align like shards of glass. You were the one who carried me to the temple. He looks away. And I was the one who left you there, thinking it would save you. Selene rises, anger and grief threading through her voice. You handed me to the same monsters who destroyed my family. I thought the gods wanted balance. His voice cracks like thunder. I thought if they saw you as chosen, they'd protect you. Instead, they cursed me. And you watched. He steps toward her. And I've watched ever since. Watched every life you lived, every time you died, reborn in fire, until I swore I'd stop running from what I caused. Her throat tightens. The truth, brutal and undeniable, slices through the remnants of her hate. You think saving me now fixes that? No, he says. But it's a start. The cave quivers under another wave of thunder. Water sprays from the mouth of the cave, misting their faces. The air between them vibrates with something that feels too alive to name. Selene whispers, you should have let me die. Cashin steps closer. I've let you die 100 times in my nightmares. I'm done watching. His hand lifts, slow, hesitant, then settles against her cheek. The warmth of him seeps into her, breaking through walls she thought were stone. For a moment, she lets him. Lets herself lean into the touch that's been centuries denied. The world shrinks to the space between their breaths. Then she says the words that break the spell. Trust me or leave. Cashin's hand falls away. He studies her as if memorizing the shape of her defiance. I've trusted no one since the night I killed my brother, he says quietly. But I'll trust you now. Then don't follow me, she says, stepping past him. Protect the twins when I can't. That's your vow. He catches her wrist, grip firm but not cruel. You don't get to face this alone. She turns, meeting his gaze head-on. That's not your choice. The silence that follows is suffocating. Two forces bound by the same curse, tearing in opposite directions. Cashin, let's go first. Then go. But know this, if you fall, I fall with you. Selene hesitates at the cave's edge, the sea roaring behind her. Then pray the gods are merciful. They're not, he replies. But I am. She leaves without another word, the fire of her aura casting long shadows behind her. The sound of her footsteps fades into the storm, swallowed by the surf and distance. Cashin stays behind, watching the place where she vanished, the echo of her heartbeat still pulsing faintly through the bond they share. He sinks to his knees, dragging a hand across his face, the taste of salt and regret on his tongue. He whispers into the empty cave, "You think I don't know what trust costs, Selene? It's everything." And somewhere far along the cliffs, the answer comes not in words, but in the faint shimmer of silver flame cutting through the darkness, moving steadily toward destiny. The morning breaks blood-red over the citadel, as though the heavens themselves already know betrayal waits within its walls. The sound of distant horns echoes through the valley long, solemn notes that once signaled peace offerings, but now feel like a funeral dirge. The air is thick with tension, the scent of incense and iron mingling with something colder fear. Selene walks beside Cashin, her steps steady, but her pulse unrelenting. Beneath her cloak, the mark on her neck burns brighter than ever, as if the prophecy can sense it's about to be unmasked. Her eyes trace the marble pillars rising ahead, the same ones that bore witness to her humiliation weeks ago. The same altar where love died and exile was born. The guards at the gate bow reluctantly, eyes flicking toward her belly. They've heard the whispers. The cursed one returns. The woman who carried flame in her veins. Cashin doesn't acknowledge them. His expression is carved from stone, but Selene feels the storm coiling beneath his calm. He's not here for diplomacy. He's here to buy her a moment to live. Inside the grand hall, light spills through fractured glass, painting the council in fractured color, gold, red, silver, blue, like shards of judgment. The ancient sigils of the pacts hang above them, symbols of unity long abandoned. The high priest steps forward, robes dragging across the cold marble. "You come seeking peace," he says, voice steady but strained. "Then show us you are not the flame that prophecy warns of." Cashin inclines his head slightly. "You mistake survival for rebellion. The fire she bears is not destruction. It's balance." A murmur ripples through the crowd. Balance. The word itself sounds dangerous here. Before the council can respond, heavy doors slam open. A wind sweeps through the chamber, snuffing out torches. And from the shadows, Lucian steps forward. His armor gleams like molten gold, and his smile carries the arrogance of a man who believes the gods themselves favor him. Selene stiffens. Her breath halts. Lucian's gaze finds her instantly, and it's not hatred she sees there, it's ownership. "So the rumors are true," he says, his voice echoing against the marble. "You brought her back here, Cashin. The council should thank you for delivering the evidence of her treachery." The high priest frowns. "Evidence?" Lucian's eyes glint with triumph. "She carries my blood." The hall gasps as one. The sound is a living thing, sharp, breathless, accusing. Selene's body goes rigid. For a moment, she can't move, can't breathe. She had braced herself for judgment, but not for this violation of her last secret. Lucian steps closer, every stride measured, his presence heavy with menace. "Tell them, Selene. Tell them about the abomination you hide beneath that cloak. You would bring monsters into this world and call them balance." Cashin moves before her instinctively, his shadow covering hers. "Careful, Lucian. Careful." Lucian laughs, the sound bitter and hollow. "You think I fear you? You think you can protect what's already mine?" "She was never yours," Cashin says quietly. Lucian's smile fades, replaced by something colder. "Then let the council decide." The high priest's voice shakes. "If it's true, if she carries a bloodline of divided flame and shadow, the prophecy cannot be ignored." The eldest counselor rises, his voice trembling with the weight of ancient law. "By decree of the Lupin Pact, any bearer of the silver flame who threatens the order must be judged at the altar." Selene's heart stops. The altar. The place where she once stood as a bride. Cashin's hand finds hers, a fleeting touch that feels like a vow. "We won't let them." But before he can move, Lucian raises a hand, and a dozen guards emerge from the sides of the hall, spears drawn. The sound of steel cuts the air. Cassian steps forward, eyes blazing. Touch her and Rome burns. His voice rolls through the hall like thunder, raw and absolute. For a moment, even the guards hesitate. The mark of his lineage, glowing faintly beneath his collar, reminds them who he is, once the Empire's chosen protector, now its most dangerous defector. Lucian smirks. You doom us all for a woman cursed by the gods? Cassian doesn't answer. The silence is answer enough. Then the blow comes not from the front, but from behind. A sharp pain lances across his ribs. He stumbles, turning just in time to see his own lieutenant withdrawing a blood-stained blade. For a heartbeat, Cassian can't speak. His eyes meet the man's, once brother in arms, now traitor. Forgive me, the lieutenant says softly. He promised me the Alpha seat. Lucian's voice cuts through the chaos. There are no brothers in prophecy, only survivors. Cassian falls to one knee, blood staining the marble beneath him. Selene moves before she can think. Her instincts take over, feral, unrestrained. The mark on her neck flares, blinding silver. The air itself trembles, torches bursting into sudden flame. Lucian steps back, shouting for the guards to restrain her, but it's too late. Selene's voice rises, deeper, older, something ancient echoing through her. You made me your monster. Now face what you created. The fire answers her call. It pours from her hands like liquid light, sweeping across the altar, consuming the banners of the council, the gold trim of Lucian's armor. Statues crack, stone bleeding molten heat. Screams fill the hall. Cassian forces himself to his feet, his vision swimming, his body shaking from blood loss. Through the chaos, he sees her, eyes glowing silver, hair whipping in the storm of her own making. She doesn't look like the woman he saved in the mud. She looks like judgment itself. Lucian tries to approach, but the flames recoil and rise higher, forming a barrier between them. Selene, he shouts. You think this power makes you free? You're proving the gods right, you are chaos incarnate. Her voice trembles with fury and grief. No, Lucian. I am what your fear made me. Cassian staggers toward her, pushing through the heat. Selene. Control it, you'll destroy everything. She looks at him, tears streaking through the ash on her face. They would have killed our children. They would have buried us before we were born. I know, he says, his voice raw. But if you burn the world now, there'll be nothing left to protect them. The words reach her barely. Her breath catches, and the fire hesitates. Then, from behind Cassian, Lucian moves fast, desperate. He seizes a fallen spear and hurls it toward her heart. Cassian lunges. The spear pierces his shoulder instead, slamming him backward. Selene screams, a sound that rips the very air apart. The flames surge again, this time not from anger, but grief so pure it feels like the voice of the gods themselves. Lucian is thrown across the room, crashing against the altar. The marble splits beneath him. Cassian collapses, his breathing ragged. Selene, he whispers, barely audible. Don't let it take you. Her power pulses, wild and defiant. The fire dances at her command, but her eyes flicker, control slipping. The prophecy's words echo in her mind. One marked by flame shall bear the heirs of balance. Balance. That word again. Balance or destruction. She kneels beside Cassian, the fire coiling protectively around them both. I can stop it, she says, voice breaking. But I need your strength. He smiles weakly, blood on his lips. You already have it. Their hands meet, palm to palm, and the fire changes. It softens. The silver hue deepens into gold, wrapping them in a light that neither burns nor blinds. The council watches in stunned silence as the flames rise toward the ceiling, forming shapes, wolves, moons, twin stars intertwined. The prophecy lives, unfolding before their eyes. When the light fades, Cassian and Selene stand together amid the ruins. The altar is gone. The banners are ash. Lucian lies broken at the foot of the stairs, staring up at her through the smoke. You think they'll follow you now, he spits. You're still the cursed one. Selene looks down at him, calm and unyielding. Maybe. But cursed things survive when the blessed fall. She turns away, supporting Cashin as they walk toward the shattered doors. Behind them, the fire burns clean, no longer destruction, but renewal. Outside, the dawn breaks anew, washing the citadel in soft light. The city below stirs, unaware that a war has already begun. Selene glances at Cashin, his arm around her waist, his blood staining her cloak. "They'll come for us." He nods. "Then let them. This time, we'll be ready." And as they disappear into the rising sun, the prophecy whispers once more through the smoke and stone, "The flame that destroys is the same that redeems." The silence after the fire is not peace, it is the breath between worlds. Ash drifts like snow through the ruins of the citadel. The once golden banners of Rome hang in tatters, and the moon, blood-red and swollen, casts its reflection in the pools of molten stone. Selene stands barefoot on the cracked marble, the echo of her power still trembling through the air. Every heartbeat of the city seems to answer hers now, every wolf, every mortal, every trembling soul who once called her cursed. Cashin stirs in the shadows, his blood staining the altar steps where he fell. She kneels beside him, her fingers trembling as they brush his jaw. He exhales, a sound halfway between pain and awe. "You burn the gods," he whispers. "And still, you look like mercy." But mercy is a wound in her now. She feels it cut deep, the sharp ache of what she has lost to reach this moment. The goddess inside her, wild, ancient, and relentless, whispers to finish it, to cleanse the world of the bloodline that betrayed her. Yet another voice, her own, fragile and human, whispers to stop. The spirits of the first shifters hover near, their forms wavering like flame in the wind. They speak in a language older than Rome, a murmur of thunder and sorrow. One steps forward, a towering figure with eyes like eclipses. "The balance is not restored," it says. "Power taken must be bound, or the world will burn anew." Selene looks to the horizon. The city still smolders. The wolves that once served the council scatter into the night, torn between allegiance and fear. Her hand shakes as she reaches for Cashin's, his warmth anchors her, keeps her from unraveling into light. "Then teach me," she says, voice low. "Tell me how to end what they began." The spirit raises its hand, and the altar transforms. The marble bleeds silver, reshaping into a mirror that reflects not her face, but her essence, two lights intertwined, one flame, one shadow. The spirit's voice trembles. "You are both creation and destruction. To bind the flame, you must claim your name, not theirs. Not the one they cursed you with." Her breath hitches. The name Selene was not hers, it was the one given by the council when they marked her as an omen, a name to contain what they feared. The memory floods back, the chanting, the iron brands, the way they stripped her of her birthright. Cashin's hand grips hers weakly. "Say it," he murmurs. "Say who you are." Her pulse thrums with the power of 1,000 moons. She stands, her voice rising through the crumbling temple. "I am not your sacrifice," she says. "I am the fire you buried." The spirits bow. The mirror shatters, and from its fragments, threads of light coil around her wrists, etching symbols of balance into her skin. The power bends, no longer consuming, but obeying. The silver flames settle within her veins, pulsing like a heartbeat, no longer wild, no longer cursed, claimed. Cashin exhales, his pain easing as her aura envelopes him. The wound across his chest begins to knit closed, but his eyes are heavy with the weight of what remains unsaid. "If you stay," he whispers, "they'll never stop coming for you." She kneels beside him again, pressing her forehead to his. "Then let them come." The warmth of her voice trembles with something between fury and devotion. "I will not hide anymore." A storm rolls over the horizon, thunder echoing through the ruins. The wolves who once served Lucian begin to return, drawn by the pulse of her power. They kneel in the ash, one by one, not out of fear, but recognition. The bond of Alpha is no longer enforced by dominance, but by the gravity of her presence. Among them stands Lucian, broken and hollow-eyed. He stares at her as if seeing her for the first time, not as the cursed bride he once condemned, but as something eternal. He falls to his knees, his voice raw. "Forgive me." The silence that follows stretches like a blade. Selene looks at him, the memory of their wedding night burning behind her eyes, the scent of roses, the cold chain of rejection, the shame he branded into her soul. Forgiveness is not something easily found in the ruins of betrayal. Yet the goddess within her whispers of mercy, not weakness, but release. She steps closer, her gaze steady. "You don't deserve forgiveness," she says quietly. "But I release you from my pain." Lucian bows his head, tears cutting through the ash on his face. The moment fractures something old between them, a bond twisted by lies, finally severed. Cassian watches in silence, the faintest smile at the corner of his lips. "You've done what no alpha ever could," he murmurs. Selene glances toward the horizon where dawn struggles to rise. "No," she replies softly. "I've done what every woman was told she couldn't." The spirits fade, their task complete, leaving only the sound of waves crashing beyond the ruins. The air shifts, the fire dims, the storm recedes. Cassian tries to stand, but his legs falter. She catches him, her strength wrapping around his weakness like a vow. "Rest," she whispers. "I'll lead them now." But even as she says it, a flicker of unease twists inside her. The prophecy spoke of balance, light and dark, creation and destruction. She has claimed her fire, but what of the shadow? As if answering her thought, a ripple of darkness stirs beneath the altar, faint but alive. Cassian senses it too. "It's not over," he says. Her gaze hardens. "Then we finish it together." He nods, his hand finding hers. Until the end. They leave the citadel behind, their silhouettes framed by the first light of dawn. The wolves follow in silence, their paws whispering across the scorched earth. In her wake, flowers begin to bloom through the ash, small, defiant symbols of life reborn. As they descend toward the valley, the air hums with ancient power. The sky brightens, revealing two moons lingering side by side, pale and watching the sign from her vision. The balance has begun, but not yet settled. Selene pauses, feeling the pulse of her unborn children stir beneath her ribs. They burn faintly with silver warmth, their souls already echoing with both her light and Cassian's shadow. She realizes then what the prophecy meant, not just heirs of balance, but the bridge between what was and what must come. She whispers into the wind, "They will not inherit our pain." Cassian looks at her, something fierce and unspoken in his eyes. "No," he says. "They'll inherit your strength." The world around them feels new, raw, trembling at the edge of transformation. The age of gods and tyrants is ending, the age of those who were once called monsters is dawning. And as they walk into the light, the fire within her flickers softly, not with rage, but with purpose. She is no longer the girl condemned by prophecy, nor the goddess bound by fate. She is the balance itself, the embodiment of every choice, every scar, every heartbeat that dared to defy the gods. The echo of her vow lingers in the air, a whisper carried by the morning wind. "I am not your sacrifice. I am the beginning." Ash drifts through the ruins like fading ghosts of the empire that tried to bury her. The scent of scorched stone clings to the wind, heavy with the memory of blood and fire. Where the altar once stood, only a crater remains, a hollow mark carved into history. Yet within that silence, two faint rhythms pulse beneath the soil, steady and defiant. Her twins live. Selene feels it before she hears it. The whisper through her veins. The tremor in her womb, soft as moonlight but fierce as lightning. Life, reborn from ruin. It anchors her trembling soul, pulls her back from the edge where divinity blurs into nothingness. She moves through the forest barefoot, the earth still warm beneath her steps. Each leaf she brushes ignites faintly with silver luminescence before fading again into shadow. The fire within her no longer burns to destroy, it hums, alive, tempered by love and purpose. Yet the night feels heavier than it should. Something lingers behind her. Cassian's breathing is slow but strong as he walks beside her. His wounds have nearly closed, but exhaustion clings to his every movement. He watches her in silence, as though afraid that speaking might break the fragile reality between them. Finally, she stops. The forest opens into a clearing where moonlight spills across the river's surface. Her reflection shimmers there, half human, half goddess. "They'll come for us," she murmurs. "Lucian. The council. The remnants of the old world. They won't accept what I've become." Cassian steps closer, his presence grounding her. "Then let them come. You don't owe them your fear." Her lips curve faintly, but there's no comfort in it. "It's not my fear that worries me. It's theirs. Fear is what starts wars." The water ripples. The reflection shifts. For an instant, she sees not herself but two small figures. Twins wrapped in light, their eyes mirrors of the same silver flame that runs in her veins. She reaches out instinctively, but the image dissolves, leaving only the reflection of a woman both haunted and holy. Cassian's hand finds her wrist. "You saw them." She nods, her voice quiet. "They're waiting." The moment stretches, beautiful, fragile. But the air cracks. The distant howl of a wolf echoes through the forest, sharp and mournful. Not an enemy's call, but a warning. The remnants of Lucian's forces are regrouping, their fear twisting into vengeance. Cassian's joy tightens. "We need to move." But Selene doesn't move. She turns her gaze toward the horizon, where the first hint of dawn bleeds into the night. No, they'll never stop chasing what they don't understand. The fire will keep spreading unless someone decides where it ends. He frowns. "You mean to face them again?" Her eyes flash like liquid silver. "No, I mean to free them." The words hang heavy between them. Cassian studies her, searching for the woman beneath the power. "And after that?" Selene looks toward the faint glow rising from the distant ruins. "After that, I'll find peace. Or burn trying." The forest seems to bow to her as she walks forward, her aura touching every living thing. Branches bend, the river hums, even the wind slows to listen. The moon above follows her like a silent witness. Cassian calls her name once, softly, "Selene." She stops. He moves closer until the distance between them is only a breath. His voice is raw. "If you walk into that storm, I'm going with you." She turns to him, her expression torn between pain and tenderness. "You were never meant to follow me into fire. Then stop setting it." Her breath catches, a soft tremor through her lips. "I can't. It's who I am now." He shakes his head. "No, you are more than prophecy. You are the woman who saved me from myself. The one who still believes in mercy even when the world deserves none." Her heart twists. She wants to believe him, wants to rest in the truth of his words, but the echo of the gods still hums in her mind, cold and merciless. Balance must be kept. She steps back, the moonlight sharpening her outline. "You can't save me from what's coming. And I can't promise I'll survive it." Cassian's voice breaks into a whisper. "Then promise me this, you'll fight for more than revenge." The world stills. The river quiets. Even the wolves beyond the trees seem to wait for her answer. Her throat tightens. "I'll fight for what they feared most," she says at last. "Choice." He nods, eyes burning with pride and grief all at once. "Then whatever happens next, I'll stand beside you." She doesn't kiss him. She doesn't dare. Some bonds are too sacred to seal in this world. Instead, she presses her forehead to his chest, feeling his heart beat once, twice, before she pulls away. Then she's gone. The forest swallows her whole, her silver aura vanishing like mist in the wind. Cassian remains at the river's edge, the faint scent of smoke lingering in the air. He looks up to the blood-red moon, whispering a vow that only the night can hear. In the ruins behind them, embers flicker. The old gods watch in silence as the prophecy unfolds without their hand. For the first time in millennia, destiny no longer belongs to them, it belongs to her. And somewhere deep within the earth, beneath the shattered altar, two faint heartbeats grow stronger, steady and eternal. The prophecy's voice lingers, soft but resonant. "The one who was rejected shall become the mother of kingdoms." The wind carries it through the forest, through the ruins, through the hearts of those who once feared her name. Then a whisper cuts through the darkness. A question, both invitation and challenge. Would you have feared her or stood beside her? Was she monster or miracle? A pause. The silence draws tight, like the pull before the next heartbeat. If this story lit a fire inside you, subscribe to Sophie's Romance Collections. Because here, we tell tales that burn. ChatGPT said. The ashes still whisper. Long after the fire dies, long after the screams fade into the cold breath of dawn, the ruins still hum with her name. Selene. Her essence lingers in the air like a forbidden prayer, soft, haunting, unyielding. The moon has dipped low, swallowed by a storm that rolls quietly across the horizon. Rome sleeps, but not peacefully. Beneath its marble bones, something stirs. The altar stands in ruin, half buried in soot and smoke. The silver scorch marks gleam faintly against the blackened stone. The air still carries the echo of power, the hum of a goddess who refused to be erased. And from the shadows, a figure steps into the remains. Cloaked. Still. Watching. He kneels, brushing his gloved fingers over the ashes. They cling to him like memory, soft and weightless, yet charged with something ancient. A faint smile touches his lips, though it never reaches his eyes. She did it, he murmurs. His voice is low, calm, dangerous. She broke the seal. His hood shifts as he glances up at the sky, where clouds move like beasts across the moon. His eyes flash gold, bright, feral, alive. But there's something colder in that glow. Not reverence. Not awe. Calculation. He stands slowly, the sound of his cloak brushing the ground like a sigh. Around him, the temple ruins seem to react, stones vibrating faintly beneath his feet, cracks glowing faintly in the pattern of wolf sigils long buried. She believes she's alone, he whispers, almost tenderly. But she is not. He walks toward the center of the destruction, where the altar once rose in pride and cruelty. Now only fragments remain, a slab cracked down the middle, veins of silver fire still threading through it like veins in marble. He crouches, placing a hand upon it. The pulse answers him immediately. The same magic that lived in Selene, that burned through her veins, trembles now beneath his touch. She awakened it, he says, more to the darkness than to himself. And with it, the rest will rise. A gust of wind sweeps through the ruins. It smells of salt and iron, sea and storm. The air thickens, bending around his presence. From somewhere deep below, the faint sound of movement answers him, like breathing. Slow, heavy, collective. He closes his eyes, listening. You've slept long enough, he murmurs into the dark. It's time. The ground shivers. Cracks split outward from the altar like lightning, reaching through the dust. Tiny embers spark along the edges, forming runes the same ones that glowed in the catacombs beneath the Colosseum. One marked by flame shall bear the heirs of balance. He smiles again, faintly. Balance. How poetic. The voice that answers him comes not from the earth, but from within his mind, deep, resonant, and old as sin. The flame cannot exist without shadow. He doesn't flinch. I know. That's why she was never meant to stand alone. The wind howls. The ashes lift into the air, spiraling around him like smoke alive with memory. In their swirling shape, faint outlines emerge, faces, wolves, souls once bound to the prophecy now freed by Selene's defiance. They circle him like phantoms, whispering her name. Selene. 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 He lifts his hand and the whispers stop. She played her part, he says softly. Now I'll play mine. His golden eyes shift toward the west, where the faint light of morning presses against the mountains. She thinks she's running from war. She doesn't realize she's walking straight into it. He removes a medallion from beneath his cloak, a sigil carved from obsidian, lined with molten gold. The mark is familiar, the twin moons, the flame between them. But this one bears an added scar, carved deep into the metal. A slash through balance itself. She carries the flame, he murmurs. But I carry the shadow. Thunder rolls. The sound echoes through the ruins, as if the earth itself recognizes what stands before it. He closes his fist around the medallion, crushing it. The pieces dissolve into black dust that scatters across the wind, spreading westward, toward the forests where Selene disappeared. The faint pulse of the twins beats in the distance, unseen but unmistakable. His head tilts slightly, listening. 2 heirs, he says. 2 paths. One will save this world. The other will destroy it. A pause. His voice softens. And I already know which one carries my blood. The wind answers him with a single low howl, ancient, long, echoing through the bones of Rome. It's not Selene's call this time. It's older. Deeper. The sound of something awakening that should have stayed buried. The man's cloak ripples in the storm's breath as he steps away from the altar. Behind him, the cracked stones pulse one final time, then go dark. But in the distance, beyond the walls, beneath the streets, across the empire, other sigils begin to flicker to life. One in the catacombs. Another beneath the arena. A third in the Temple of Mars. Each pulse stronger than the last. The city stirs. The bloodlines remember. And somewhere in the forest miles away, Selene stops walking. Her pulse quickens. She feels it, the shift in the air, the ripple of power awakening again. The twins move restlessly inside her, reacting to something unseen. Cashin senses it too. His wolf stirs beneath his skin, uneasy. What is it? He asks. She looks toward the east, toward the faint glow rising beyond the ruins of Rome. It's not over. The wind catches her hair, scattering it across her face. Her eyes burn silver, brighter than before. Something else just woke up. Cashin frowns, stepping closer. Another prophecy? She shakes her head slowly. No. A consequence. The air tightens between them. For a heartbeat, neither speaks. Then the forest goes utterly still, no birds, no rustle, only silence. And from far beyond the horizon, a new howl rises. It's not like hers. It's darker, colder, threaded with vengeance. Cashin's expression hardens. Who is that? Selene's voice trembles, not with fear, but with recognition. The one they forgot to burn. The howl fades into the distance, but its echo lingers like a curse. The twins kick once, twice, as though answering a call only they can hear. The prophecy's rhythm returns, pulsing faintly beneath Selene's ribs. She knows that whatever she unleashed at the altar was not the end. It was only the door. Cashin steps forward, his hand brushing hers. Then we face it together. Her gaze stays fixed on the horizon. Together, she whispers. But not yet. He studies her, realizing the truth in her tone. There's something she's not telling him, something she's already decided. Selene, he says quietly, don't do this alone. Her lips part, but no words come. Instead, she turns away, eyes glinting with that familiar mix of sorrow and fire. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of rain and ashes. She tilts her head slightly, listening to the storm. It's starting, she murmurs. Cashin frowns. What is? She glances back once, the faintest trace of a smile on her face. The reckoning. Then she walks into the rain, her figure swallowed by mist and moonlight, leaving behind the faint glow of silver where her feet touch the ground. Back in the ruins, the cloaked man watches the horizon where she vanished. His golden eyes narrow. Run while you can, Flameborn, he whispers. When the eclipse comes, the gods will not choose you, they'll choose me. He lifts his hand, palm glowing faintly black. From the ashes, a new sigil burns into existence, the mark of the shadow line. Lightning flashes, and his face finally comes into view. The same golden eyes as Cashin. The same jawline. The same blood. The twin who lived. He turns away from the altar, disappearing into the darkness as thunder rolls over the sleeping empire. And somewhere between heaven and hell, the gods whisper, almost laughing. The story has only begun. The wind shifts again, carrying a single voice through the night.